What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again. And today we're going to get into kind of football. And when will we get football again? All right, if it's your first time here, glad to have you. If you're a return viewer, thanks for coming back and thanks for watching more videos. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. And remember, guys, leave me those comments down in the comment section. You know how I love to interact with you guys, and I love to get your thoughts. Listen, you guys leave me some amazing things and some awesome stuff. And so I love the fact that you guys interact with me, and thank you, because you guys, hey, listen, you guys are intelligent, you know what you're doing, and you're very knowledgeable, and you help me out a lot. So thank you very much. All right, let's not waste any more time. Let's go into this. Let's look into this, because we kind of got a tentative thing from the NFL today. And really, for the past couple weeks, we've been kind of bombarded by this whole college football thing. So I kind of want to give my thoughts on the two things. Let's start with the NFL, because I think that one is a little bit of an easier, monster to kind of manage. So right now, what they're looking at is that they're really still trying to kind of start the season right where it would normally start, which is falling around, I think that like September 10th type of a thing. It's right after Labor Day, like how they always start it. But what they're looking to do is see if they can start things about 6 weeks before that, which if you do that, that would be starting at the end of July, bringing everybody in, going ahead, starting things there, and then starting their season and doing everything as status quo normal. Now, what they look to possibly do, if they have to, is go into what they've kind of dubbed as, kind of their contingency plan to kind of save the season and still have the season kind of in a normal fashion come October 15th. What does that mean? That means that the season would start around that mid-October date, and I don't know if that's the exact date. That October 15th, yeah, that's the Thursday. So it is the October 15th date. So the October 15th, starting there, and what they would do is that they would actually go and do 16 weeks. So they would actually cut out the bye week. So the teams wouldn't get their bye week that they normally would. They would just go through and play their weeks as normal, where the teams that would have buys would just play each other that week, and then that's how that would go, and that would progress. Now, what they would do is remove the Pro Bowl, and then looking about, I think it's like February 28th, somewhere around there, that's when they would have the Super Bowl. So they would remove that extra week, and then instead of having that week with the Super Bowl, that week in between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, having the Pro Bowl, they would just get rid of the Pro Bowl and do that, which I think is a fantastic thing. I think they need to get rid of the Pro Bowl anyways. It's a waste of time. Granted, it's a way for them to bring more money. It's a way for guys to make some more money, with that. And I think, listen, I think they need to just have their All-American teams or whatever, and their Pro Bowl selections, the guy that get the Pro Bowl selections, they get, an extra bonus or something like that or whatever, however they have their contracts built in, whatever, they do that, but then just be done with it. They don't need to play a game. Don't need to do that now. I know. And see, what they've done is kind of made this like, this whole big thing, the week leading up to the Super Bowl, and then having that, just get rid of it. Don't have it anymore. We don't need the Pro Bowl. And that just have Pro Bowlers, who these guys would be, and just be done with it. Because a lot of times guys will sit them out, especially if they're guys who are in the Super Bowl. You're not going to see them there. They're not going to be playing. So to have that type of a thing and to be doing that, me personally, I think that that's really kind of where I think that they should be at with it. So I like that idea. I think that that's good. And actually, I would almost prefer that with the season. Just go ahead and move that up. The bye week thing, I don't know. For me, it's neither here nor there. I get the fact that gives, the players, a week to rest in the middle of the season. How big of a deal that is, I don't know. I'm not a player, so I can't come out and really say that with it, but that's kind of, where they're sitting with it. I like that. I didn't really see anything about the actual preseason. If they would just completely cut out the preseason, they would have the preseason. If you ask me, get rid of the preseason. Now, I know that, that's how they evaluate their talent and their guys. I'm okay with, why don't you go ahead and, pull 2 team scrimmages or something like that, have 2 scrimmages and be done. I'm totally fine with that. I think that would be the way to do it. Cut those games down. It's less games, it's less monotony we have to deal with and all of that, stuff. Now, granted, I know a lot of times the coaches really use that time to really get in with the players and really figure out, who's going to be what and, some game time situations, but they're never really game type situations. You never really get to see the athleticism on display of some of these guys because it really is just they're running basic offenses. They're not really doing anything. And it never really gives a guy an opportunity to really make a name for himself. I've never seen a guy go in and just play amazing in preseason and now the guy's starting. It's never happened that way. The guy was already looking at being a starter before that even happened. This is for the guys who are getting the spots on the team. It's a glorified practice. It's a glorified scrimmage. Just have the scrimmages, just have a couple of them, figure out your guys and move on. That's what I think about the preseason. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of my time. And that now for the coaches and stuff, it might not be a waste of time. For those players who are fighting, might not be a waste of time. It's a waste of TV time. It's a waste of my dollars if I want to go see players play, and again, it's one of those things to where it's like, yeah, some of these players I would love to see them play, but I don't want to see them just handing the ball off or running some stupid slant route and not actually into the game and that with it. If, it's like when I want to see these guys who I watched in college and play amazing in college and now be regulated and limited to just running some vanilla offense, that's not what I want to see. So get rid of it. Have a couple of scrimmages and then let's hit the season hard. Let's do that. Now, let's look at the reality of what could happen with that. The NFL, they can pull this off. Now, it's been said that it's probably anywhere between 10 to 20% of their revenue actually comes from those game day experiences. Which again, it just goes to show you that the things in the no fun league are too bloated. If their revenue that they're bringing in and what the money that they're getting is only from the ticket sales and the game day experience, they're only bringing in 20%. That's where 20% of at the max is 20%. Good night. These games cost an arm and a leg for people. And people can't hardly even take their families anymore to these things. It truly is the cost of literally to go to one game is like a really, really nice week-long vacation for families. It's just preposterous what it's come to. And to think that doesn't even make up, 20% of their revenue is crazy to me. But regardless, so the fans isn't as big of a deal for the NFL to where they could actually figure out a way to play and to do that without the fans. The question is, though, can they pull it off with all the personnel that they have to have on the field and with all of the people that they have? If they've got, somewhere around, let's just round numbers because it's easy that way. They've got roughly around 50 people who are going to be on the sidelines that are just players. Now you start adding in coaching staff on top of that, and then staff on top of that. All of the sudden now, just between the two teams, you're looking at just on the sidelines, looking at somewhere around 200 to 300 people. That's not counting any camera crews. That's not counting any officiating crews. That's not counting, anybody that's running the actual game. So by the time we get all of this thing said and done in these stadiums, you're really running about, I don't know, at least 500 people there, 600 people. So as we're looking at this now, we'll see what happens. Most of the states and most of the country, you're still running at a limit of 10 people that can congregate. That's the largest amount of people that you can be at. Now, granted, we are we're at the tail end of April, starting into May. So now for Ohio, we're going to be, that's going to probably continue on that way through the month of May. But I know, if you go out to Walmart, if you go out to Meijer, Target, someplace like that, or the hardware store, obviously there's more than just 10 people in there, but supposedly they can spread out. Now in a stadium, who knows, they can spread out. But I can tell you on that sidelines, there's no way that you can take roughly 200 people and spread them out enough to be social distancing. You can't. And the other thing is you start now, okay, well, we test everybody when they come and they got to test every day and this and that. That's fine. But can we actually, do we need that testing for people who are actually sick, or do we need that testing for sports? And that's really what, and this starts to come down to, listen, I love football. You guys know that. Football is my favorite sport. I love getting into football. I love talking about football. But when it comes down to it, we're talking about people's lives. And granted, I do know that right now, if we look at it, we've got May, June, July, August, September. So we're roughly about 5 months away from that. But if things keep progressing or going like they are, it's going to be really, really hard for us to get football back. Now, people are going to cry, you can't have football without fans. Listen, I'll take football if I can see it on the TV and sit home, I'll take it. I'll do that. The NFL, I think that by that time they could probably figure something out, and hopefully maybe things can be opened up. Hopefully we don't get these surges that happen, that things start to get shut back down again, and that, we'll see. I don't know. Is everybody going to be running around with masks on the sidelines especially if they're not on the, I don't know. It's crazy. But I think that the NFL might actually be able to pull that off, especially if they move it back. I like the idea of them moving it back to October, starting in mid-October and doing that. That's a good thing to me with that. I like that with the NFL. I see the NFL, can pull off a season doing that. It's going to be tough, right now. I don't know. There's just so much money that's at stake that I don't know what to think, because, from everything that we've seen, what doctors are telling us with all that, it doesn't make sense for the safety of people to have sports right now. However, monetarily, it makes sense to for these businesses to try to find these sports businesses to find a way to make money, because right now they're just losing money. Now, granted, they've kind of figured things out to get them. This is the off season for football and that. So, we're already kind of in a law to where they can kind of, navigate through some of this period. But listen, I think that this is an opportunity for the sports world to get kind of re-regulated and for the NFL to get innovative again. And listen, these contracts need to, they can come back down. I'm not a guy that doesn't think that, listen, if a guy can make $30 million, I'm okay with a guy can make $30 million. But, I've almost come to this point to where, sports have become like driving our society, and is that really where we need to be? And maybe again, this needs to be a time when we need to start focusing on the most important things in life, and that's people, and the wellness of people. And again, part of that wellness is making sure that they're economically stable. I'm not talking about just medically and things like that, and that with it, people need to be able to work, and they need to be able to do that. But I'm also looking at this thing that maybe we can, something can come out of this to where, the sports world isn't so topsy-turvy as what it is right now, because the reality of it is, for somebody to really be able to experience the NFL, be a real big fan of the NFL and do that, you're going to have to shell a lot of money. You can't just be anymore, you can't just go to a game. You have to plan it all out. You have to do that. It's not conducive. And really, it hurts the fan experience. They want to truly create the fan experience that they can really have the fan, then they need to redo some things. And again, I think that it might not be bad for some of these companies to have to figure some things out and get some of these contracts that are just ridiculous, get them trimmed back down. I don't know. Those are just kind of my thoughts. You might disagree with me. Some of you guys probably will with that. Now, let's turn it to college football, because college football for me is really kind of where the interesting thing happens. So it's been said multiple times, and good night, I've seen multiple pieces on ESPN that just Power 5 football alone is a $4 billion business. When I look at that, I think that this is absolutely ridiculous. These are people who are supposed to be going for higher education, and that's the reason why they are there. They are student athletes. The thing there is not, this is not alphabetical athlete student. No, it's a student athlete. The emphasis is supposedly on the student. However, these universities have set themselves up. They're so bloated with football and such a money-making thing on football that they need football. Literally, their athletic departments, which again are the most, they're the most costly for these schools. That's what they need to survive. So they need football. They need to figure out a way to do football. The hard part of it is that how do you do this? So right now, we've got a lot of the country shut down. And again, you've got these large major universities. And what they do is they bring people from all over the country, all over the world into a small little location. And a lot of times they house them in dorms in small little locations, meaning they can't even, in some of these dorm rooms, can't even get 6 feet apart from each other, which is absolutely ridiculous. So when we're looking at this whole social distancing thing is a really difficult thing to do on a college campus. Why am I saying that? Because remember, student athlete. So if it's students first, it needs to be student driven. And for them right now, it's a really hard thing for them to do with the whole student things. And listen, the thing for them is that football is a huge revenue builder for them. They said it's a $4 billion industry, and it's looking at probably somewhere around 40% of their revenue that they bring in, maybe even higher than that, maybe 40 to 50% of their revenue, meaning $2 billion worth of the revenue from just Power 5 conference teams alone is in their game day experience and what they bring in from people coming to the games, which is just crazy. So if they can't have football if they cannot have fans there, it's going to be a big deal. They're losing a lot of money, which in turn means that they can't fund all of the other sports that are happening, because let's not kid ourselves here. Football pays, especially in those larger D1 schools, pays for all of the other sports to do all of the things that they do. The travel that they do, the places that they go for these conferences to do all of these other sports. And I'm not saying that these other sports shouldn't have this or that, but they really are in a bind if they can't figure out a way to have football. This is going to be huge for them. On the flip side of that, what do they do with the students? I mean, again, this is about people's safety, health, and well-being. This is not about us playing a game. Granted, a $4 billion game, but it's a game nonetheless. We're talking about people's lives. We still don't know what's going on with this, and we don't know, again, for college football, we're still 4 or 5 months away. Now they're looking at, some people have said kind of this 6-week period thing that they've got going on. And I don't know, try to 6 weeks, to get all of the, the players in that back 6 weeks before they start, 6 weeks, boom. And then have some sort of season, this and that, or just moving everything to the spring. I think some people have said that's preposterous. How could you play in that weather and do this, have fans out there? I don't know. The XFL pulled it off just fine this year. Now, granted, they started in February, which could quite possibly be there. And, then they're talking about, well, how do you do that to players? You have them play, and then turn around and then, a few months later be playing again. I don't know. I'm not necessarily, there with it. What I am going to say is that it's going to be very, very difficult to figure some of this out. Now, as we progress on through, and we'll see what happens throughout the summer, what happens, and maybe things might level off to be able to have that. But this is going to be a real interesting thing to see how it goes. And especially, got to remember now, a lot of these conferences cover multiple states. We're not just talking about, all of them being in the state. So they're all under the same kind of, edicts and all of the same different things. I mean, when you're talking about it, you've got the Big Ten. Remember, you've got Rutgers and Maryland in there as well, which Rutgers is in, New York. And, then you've got all the way, Madison, Minnesota, Madison, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois. So you've got such, a different thing there. Ohio, Michigan, Indiana. When we start looking at this, Pennsylvania, now all of a sudden you've got all of these states that we're stringing out. And that's just the Big Ten. That's not counting the ACC. That's not counting, the SEC. Let's get them all in here. The Big 12, the Pac-12. That's not counting, and we won't leave you out, Notre Dame. That's not counting those, those teams and that with it. So, what are you going to do with, this state has this thing and this state has this thing? How do we do that and how do we play that? Do we, some people are talking, well, maybe just play conference games and that's what they do, and just, a shortened season and that be it. I don't know. People are crying for more football. They want college football playoff and that, and this might push things on down the road to that. I don't know. It's very interesting. And there's a lot of pieces, especially for college football, to fall in place. And so what they're running up against is their money, their revenue, and they're also running up against the safety of the student. Because right now, remember, they've been sitting on their high horse that these are student athletes. And so they've pretty much painted themselves, all of the executives, I'm going to call them executives, but all the athletic directors, the school presidents and all that have said that these are student athletes. So we're looking at them as student athletes. And then on the other hand, they need that money. That money makes things go. And they're not stupid, and they're making a lot of money. I mean, think about that. $4 million. Okay? So let's just say 85 scholarships, all right? Now you've got, roughly 50 some different college, the Power 5 schools. So you've got 85 players on over 50 teams are making these schools $4 billion. And take it for what it's worth. I don't know. Maybe that truly is worth just room, board, and an education. I don't know. But the thing is still about bringing. You can't bring the student athletes back without bringing everybody back. There's just you can't justify that. If it's not safe for everybody else to be there, it's not safe for them to be there. Period. That's the end of the story. And listen, they don't have any of these contingencies that the NFL does. They don't have a players union. They don't have anything there for them, and they can't even make money off of themselves, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. Anybody else. As long as you're not a student athlete, you can go to college and you can make money doing whatever you want. And as long as they get their check at the end of the day, or if they give you scholarships, they let you work. Listen, I worked through school and had scholarships, academics, no issues, no problems. But for some reason, as soon as you are an athlete, we have issues. Whatever. If you ask me, I think the system just needs to be blown up, and this is the perfect time to do that. And who knows? It's going to be really interesting to see, because we've got these juniors and these seniors. We have these guys who are there to play football, and that they're looking to play football. And who's to say that they can't join one of these other startup leagues? So I just talked about, in another video, the MLF, or that, let's say they can make good money playing in one of these leagues. And again, it's not great money when it comes to sports, but listen, if they can make money and do that, be housed by these leagues and do that. And let's say I'm a junior looking to go out. I need to play football because I need I need that to to get my film out there so I can go into the NFL. I'm going to pull a Kenny Robinson Jr., which I think that showed that you can not play a senior year. You can go play in the XFL, go play in another league. You play well. The NFL is going to see it, and they're going to pick you up. But play in one of these other leagues and then still get drafted. And listen, you can make money, and you know what? You can go to school too. Listen, I worked as much as I could, and I pretty much worked full-time as a part-timer and did full school. I took 15 and 18 credit hours. Sometimes I would have took more if I could have, but unfortunately I wasn't allowed to take a semester take more than the 18 credit hours when I was in school. But listen, I worked, they worked me as much as they could before they had to give me benefits. So I'm working 32 to 35 hours some weeks, and in other weeks I had worked more. But so, as I'm looking at this, I'm still going to school and doing that. Why can't they play football and go to school? So what happens is, they go and they play football for a couple years, and by the time they're ready for the NFL draft, they already have a degree. So what they would have accomplished in school, now granted, they're going to have to pay for it, or they can get some academic scholarships. Listen, a lot of these football players, they do have good grades and do, good grades to where they would end up with some academic scholarships, especially with the way that some of these state schools, they're pretty much laid out to where if you get this, you get this. And, that's what happens with a normal student. So why would that be any different? Let them go play. Let them go make a normal wage of what, a normal working person's going to make, because, the money that they're going to make working in some of these other leagues, is going to be about the same pay as what a hard working middle class American's going to make. And they can they can go through, they can do their schooling online, finish out, get a good degree, and have a degree, and then move on to the NFL. And when they're done, when they're done with their football, they've got their degree to fall back on, and they actually have that, if that's what they want to do. But if they want to just go play football, let them go play football. I'm sick and tired of us telling. I mean, granted, I get it. It's an 18, 20, 21, 22-year-old kid. I get it. I understand that. But I also understand we're also letting them vote. We're also putting them in the draft. And in some cases, they're also legally allowed to drink. And so if we're going to consider them adult, let them be an adult. That's just my thoughts on that situation with that. But yeah, I think that, listen, I think the whole system needs to be blown up and shook up. And it's really going to come down to it, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how this kind of, granted, we've got 5 months to figure this thing out, but it'll be really interesting to see how things progress with it. But where we're sitting right now, there's a lot of interesting questions that people are asking. There's a lot of solutions that are coming, some good, some bad. I don't know, what I like so far. I just know right now, if things progress the way they are, I don't really see a college football season happening. But, a month can say a whole lot, and so a lot of things can change in months. So we'll see where it is. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comment section. Let me know what you think about all this. Let me know where you think things are going to go with football as it comes to having football and playing football in 2020. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe out there and keep up the hope. Have a good night. Bye.